Please have your seats so that we can start the final plenary. Delegates, we are close to the end of the meeting, and the first part of the plenary we devote to the reporting back on the progress of the various groups and to conclude on the unfinished business of the plenary. So first, I will give the floor to one of the co-chairs from the contact group on atmospheric monitoring. Who would like to take the floor? Alexandra from Italy or Liana from Armenia? I see Liana is getting ready. Liana, you have the floor.
Well, we do have good news to share that we have significantly advanced through the operational paragraphs, and even we managed to clean up certain square brackets, but still allocated time was not enough for us to consider to go throughout the whole text of operational paragraphs and to address the preambular part. So we are ready to continue the work in the contact group at the in Bangkok in October, or I think it shall be October, end of October, not early November. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We will forward the CRP to the 36th MOP, and with this we will close this agenda item for this meeting. And now I would like to give the floor to contact group on MDIs. Henry from Switzerland or Idris from Nigeria? Henry, you have the floor. 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 You have the floor.
Those inhalers met today for a second time. After clarifying further questions from the room, the group was ready to take a look at the text. In this process, one party put forward alternative text, which the room considered useful to be discussed. The proponent of the original CRP text demonstrated his flexibility and agreed to start discussing this alternative text, while the operative paragraphs from the original text were bracketed for the time being. At the end of the session, the group achieved to agree on one of the alternative paragraphs with one expression remaining in brackets. For two further alternative paragraphs, there was not sufficient time to take a look at, and the group bracketed them for the time being. You can find the result of our discussions so far posted on the portal under the section of the contact group on medical dose inhalers. In the opinion of the co-conveners, my colleague Idris and myself, parties made very good progress, showing flexibility and compromise to come closer to an agreement. Therefore, the co-conveners would recommend parties to continue the conversation in this contact group during the MOP. Thank you.
Forward the CRP to the MOP. And with this, we will close this agenda item as well for this meeting. And next, I would like to give the floor to contact group on strengthening MP and Sontel from Barbados.
contact group on the draft decision on further strengthening Montreal Protocol institutions, next steps, submitted by the EU, had its third meeting for 1 hour this afternoon. While the entire CRP remained in brackets, we had some very thoughtful, focused, and frank discussions on operative paragraphs 2 and 3, as well as had some suggested text added to the draft CRP. During the discussions, the proponents updated that they heard the concerns of parties, noted they have received good feedback, and that they would update the document being mindful to take the concerns expressed into consideration. We were unable to complete our work, unfortunately, but parties were open to further deliberations. The proponents expressed that they hope to present an updated CRP at the upcoming meeting of the parties. Ultimately, there was agreement that this is a discussion that could continue during the meeting of the parties. On behalf of my co-chair, Yana, and myself, I wish to thank all delegations for their constructive contributions to the discussions in the contact group, and to thank them for allowing us the opportunity to serve as co-chairs. Thank you.
We'll forward this CRP as well to the MOP, and we'll close the agenda item for this meeting. And now I will give the floor to one of the co-chairs of the informal group on HFC 23, Form 3. Martin from Netherlands and Obed from South Africa. Obed? Yes, Obed? Yes, Obed? Yes, Obed? Yes, Obed? Yes, Obed? Yes, Obed.
Chair, the informal group met just this afternoon for a second meeting. Some parties were able to have bilaterals between the meeting we had last night and this afternoon, and also had an opportunity to consult with the Secretariat on the options and the best forms to be able to look into. During our meeting this afternoon, there were continued exchanges between parties with regards to the options that were presented by the Secretariat and options that parties were suggesting that the issues of destruction of HFC 23 can be looked into. There are some further challenges that have been identified on the reporting forms, Form 3, 4, and 6. With regards to the way forward, one party has volunteered that they will draft a paper on the most appropriate options for discussion that will be facilitated at the next MOP in Bangkok. So that's the way forward from that informal group, Madam Co-Chair, that we will continue the discussion considering the paper that will be drafted by one party. So with that, I would like to thank all the parties that came into the discussions on behalf of myself and Martin for your good cooperation, and we look forward to working with yourselves again at the MOP in Bangkok. Thank you, Madam. Coach, 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 thank you, Madam. Coach.
So we will wait for this document to be submitted to the OZO Secretariat before the MOP for consideration. And with that, I will give the floor to my co-chair, Ralph.
I'd like to go to the next contact group on unwanted equipment. Moran and Linda. So, and Moran from France is asking for the floor, please.
Pour la deuxième fois cet après-midi, afin de poursuivre la discussion sur le CRP portant sur les importations non consenties de produits et d'équipements à faible rendement énergétique. Le groupe a progressé dans l'examen du CRP. Les parties ont pu apporter des contributions au titre et ont pu retirer des crochets. Les discussions n'ont cependant pas pu être finalisées dans le temps imparti. Ainsi, en mon nom et au nom de ma co-facilitatrice Linda, nous demandons au coprésident de transmettre le CRP au segment préparatoire de la réunion des parties parties afin de poursuivre les échanges. J'en profite pour remercier les parties qui ont participé et ont permis de faire avancer les discussions. Je remercie également les coprésidents de nous avoir nommés co-facilitatrices de ce groupe de contact. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
for this contact group. Thank you. Group, 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 thank you.
And I would like to thank you and Linda for your good work in the group, and then the CRP can be forwarded to the MOP, and we close this agenda item. Then we go to the contact group on compliance deferral, and I would like to ask the conveners, Cornelius or Anna Maria. I think Cornelius will report back. So Cornelius, please. Cornelius, please. Cornelius, please. Cornelius, please. Cornelius, please.
The group on the draft decision on possible compliance deferral for Article 5 Group 2 parties met for the second time today. Intersessionally, the proponents met with TEEP to discuss certain open questions that occurred and appeared yesterday. 2 meetings of that kind took place prior to the meeting of the contact group. After clarifying some conceptual issues concerning the feasibility of information requests, which are at the core of the content, were clarified, and the contact group started to work on the text, in particular also in relation to the framing and the timing of the different informations requested by TEEP. These discussions were very productive but could not lead to a final conclusion on this issue. Therefore, parties wish to continue this discussion at the meeting of the parties and would request to close the agenda item for this meeting and to continue the discussion later on. Also on behalf of Anna-Marie, Mia, I would like to thank all participants for the constructive attitude and in particular to thank TEEP for their preparedness to answer and to engage in very fruitful discussions with the proponents. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And I would like to thank you and Anna Maria for their good work in the group. And this will be forwarded also to the MOP. So then we can close this agenda item as well. Then we had all the reports back from the contact groups and the informal group. And I would like then to hop to agenda item 6B, energy efficiency. And there is a CRP posted, and that's from Micronesia and Grenada. And I think Micronesia or Grenada, one of you should introduce it, so I'm not sure who will do that. Grenada, please.
I apologize to this body for coming in that late with this CRP. We know we are on the very home stretch of this meeting, but we still felt it was absolutely necessary to get this input in as we close this meeting. So posted on the conference portal is CRP 10, which essentially reflects some of the views that were expressed when this item was introduced in the plenary earlier on in the meeting. So its caption is a CRP on strengthening the enabling environments to enhance energy efficiency in the cooling sector while implementing the Kigali Amendment. And it basically highlights a lot of the concerns that were raised by parties in the plenary. So there is some preambular text that basically sets the tone for the operative text of the CRP, but essentially the draft CRP that is before us examines carefully the enabling environment and support that is required for national ozone units to strengthen the capacity and also for implementing agencies' capacities to be strengthened. It also addresses the upcoming discussions that would ensue at the executive committee so that additional support on energy efficiency can be provided, and the unique circumstances and challenges of LVCs and VLVCs will be taken into consideration when these discussions are being held. And then it looks at also utilizing the increased funding that has been provided to the implementing agencies to provide additional support in terms of project preparation and implementation with matters related to energy efficiency while phasing down these HFCs. And also to further encourage the TEEP and to complement the good work that the TEEP has been doing, and to urge them to continue updating the reports in the future, but at the same time taking into consideration the unique circumstances and special challenges that LVCs and VLVCs are currently facing. So these are essentially the elements of the CRP. We know that there would not be any time for its discussion here, but we will look to enhance it further as we move forward to the MOP later on this year. And we were hoping that we will have the correct environment where we can fully discuss this particular draft decision. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I would also like to request that my colleague from Micronesia be afforded the opportunity to further add her voice to this CRP with respect to its presentation in this plenary. Thank you so much.
Indeed. Now I would like to give the floor to Micronesia, please. 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 Please.
Very pleased to join forces with the distinguished delegation of Grenada to submit this draft decision for the consideration of the parties. Mr. Co-Chair, good progress has been made over the past years on building greater understanding and capacity to address energy efficiency in the context of the HFC phase down. We are pleased with the progress, and yet we are also aware that much work still remains to address many of the challenges and to make the most of the opportunities that, if attained, will make an enormous contribution to addressing climate change, while at the same time supporting energy security, food security, and access to cooling. We have worked throughout the week to identify a selection of next steps that will help move us another step forward. We are very grateful for the time and valuable contributions of our sisters and brothers from the Caribbean and Pacific Islands to the work reflected here. We look forward to working collaboratively with parties on these ideas at the meeting of the parties in Bangkok. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Ask for reactions from the floor, and I look if there are reactions on this CRP. Thank
you, Mr. Co-Chair. I would first like to thank the proponents of the CRP, the distinguished delegations of Grenada and the Federated States of Micronesia. And just to reiterate that I do agree that the elements of the CRP as proposed do highlight some of the concerns that were already shared in the plenary. And so I would look forward to being able to discuss this document at an appropriate time and venue at the upcoming meeting of the parties. At this time, Co-Chair, I know we are pressed for time, but as I would have indicated to the co-chairs earlier in the week, when we were discussing agenda item 6, particularly slide 36, when the TEEP was making their presentation in relation to the progress report, in trying to adhere to the rules in relation to only asking questions, I missed the window of opportunity to make this comment, and it is specifically related to the comment made by the TEEP or the request made for consideration of travel arrangements or expenses for TEEP and TALK members. I know that this august body would recognize the commitment that the TEEP members make to this body, their contributions, often at possibly personal expense. As Article 5 parties, we are thankful for the ability to be able to participate in this meeting through funding, but we also know that it comes at an expense to us as well. So if we can do anything to support TEEP members in their requests for assistance, whether they be Article 5 or not, it would be greatly appreciated. We've lost experts already because of the funding issues, and I think that if they've raised an issue and we do not look to address it, it could be more costly for us later on in terms of attracting new members. So I would beg us to look into and consider their requests for travel expenses at an appropriate time. Thank you.
Let's say not directly linked to this energy efficiency, as I understood, but there's support for the CRP10 as presented. I have Senegal and United States on my list. Senegal, 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 Senegal.
The delegation of Senegal support this CRP to be discussed in the next meeting in Bangkok. And we would like to thank Grenada and Federated States of Micronesia for submitting this CRP. Thank you very much.
US. If there's others who would like to speak, please indicate it. The United States, 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 States.
By thanking Grenada and the Federated States of Micronesia for putting this forward. Certainly appreciate the thought and attention that they have put into this proposal on what is an important issue. I think it's our broader efforts to promote energy efficiency as we move forward with the HFC phase down. So we have, to be honest with you, we only saw this a few minutes ago on the portal. So these are some very preliminary reflections. But listen, I do think it's quite helpful. At the last meeting of the executive committee, we agreed to a window, $100 million window, focused in particular on the manufacturing sector, which I think to us was really a very promising and helpful outcome to achieve climate benefits beyond those in the Kigali Amendment. So we appreciate the continued focus on this particular issue. I would probably just comment on a couple items. So having agreed that window that focuses on the manufacturing sector, our recollection is that there will be further discussion at the next meeting of the executive committee on at least two areas. The first was on the possibility of a revolving fund, which potentially relates to end user projects or possibly broader than that. And then secondly, to look at some issues that were non-investment related. And so just to note, I see a few of those issues that are picked up in this proposal. So I think from our perspective, we understand these are important issues. I think we're broadly supportive of advancing the energy efficiency agenda. I would just say, I think we want to just be careful that where we've got sort of an ongoing discussion in the executive committee and additional information that we've requested coming into it, that we make sure that we're continuing our focus there to try to achieve additional progress to build upon the $100 million window, for example, that we just achieved. I would note, very much appreciate the language in 1A, the aspect of talking about developing a robust pipeline of high quality project proposals. I think honestly that is really probably the key to success of really getting some additional climate benefits out of the $100 million window. So very much appreciate Micronesia and Grenada really highlighting that as an important element as a part of this. So listen, again, really thanks to them for highlighting the energy efficiency issue. Not a compliance obligation, as we all know, but it's something that's quite important that we make some efforts to increase energy efficiency as part of the HFC phase down. I haven't had enough time with this to fully reflect on it, but did just want to share a couple of initial reflections, and obviously we'll have more to say at the meeting of the parties after we've had more time to reflect on this. Thank you. Yes. 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 Thank you.
If others would like to speak, please push the button. It's Nigeria and others. And it's Kuwait, Nigeria, Armenia, and the EU. So in this order, and then I close the list. So Kuwait, please, 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 please.
And Federal State of Micronesia for submitting this draft decision. And as the distinguished delegate from USA was mentioning, that energy efficiency is something that is very urgent and very substantial to our task when we are phasing down the HFCs, and as the window has been opened, and I think this is a great idea and there's a great potential, but as this is a late notice reaching this CRB, we didn't have the time to go through it verbally and discuss with our colleague about it. We are fully aware that this is something have to be discussed here. But I just want to highlight what has been mentioned previously, that we have also to look to this CRB in a way as we are looking to the guidelines of the 100 million window that we open in the MLF now, so how both of these can work together and to achieve for our colleagues and in Article 5 the success of implementing their HFCs down, phase down with their energy compliance and energy upgrading for their national circumstances. And I just want to say that we are in favor of that CRB, but with a cautious how that will work with the energy efficiency under the MLF. Thank you very much. 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 Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. My delegation supports this CRP. We wish to thank the proponents of this CRP. I will look forward to further discussion of this CRP at the next MOP in Bangkok. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Armenia would like to thank the proponents of this CRP for addressing these very important issues, which is kind of framing some part of the discussion on this matter that took place within the margins of this meeting. And I would like to mention once again what many of delegates have already said about the importance of the energy efficiency and increasing importance of it. And it is becoming important not only for A5 parties and not only for A2 and A5 parties, but the countries with low consumption are of low volume consumption may be of at additional risk, may be facing additional challenges. So hence I would like to commend the proponents of paying specific attention to those parties in the CRP. And of course, my delegation will be ready to keep on the discussion of this CRP within the margins of MOP. Thank you.
It's Hungary on behalf of the 27 member states of the European Union. So we are exactly in the same position as everybody here. We just discovered the document a few minutes ago, so it's a bit difficult, of course, to react on the spot. But we are very positive to the initiative, and we also believe that addressing correctly the energy efficiency aspects of the document of the Kigali implementation project is one of the key issues that we have to take into account. So we would like also to give a positive note and address or express our willingness to engage into discussions about that subject at the MOP. Thank you.
That was the last speaker on my list. I would like to say that we would forward this to the MOP and that we will come back at the MOP and further discuss on it. And then I would like to close agenda item 6B. And then I would like to go to agenda item 12, the proposal from Cuba on additional funding. And I would like to ask Cuba to report back on the consultations in the margins of this meeting and what came out of it. Cuba, you have the floor.
Lamentamos que no hayamos podido desarrollar encuentros oficiosos, quizás porque las principales delegaciones que trasladaron una consideración diferente y que tenían sus objeciones al respecto, estaban en grupos de contacto o en otro tipo de reuniones, pero la realidad es que simplemente pudimos tener dos acercamientos de inicios de conversaciones con el delegado del Canadá. Realmente en la sala, cuando debatimos el tema hace 2 días, era muy claro que las posiciones están muy alejadas. Yo simplemente desearía recordar que cuando llegamos a la MOP 35, nuestro proyecto de decisión buscaba no enmendar el protocolo de Montreal, por supuesto, buscaba un ajuste en cuanto a la búsqueda de una flexibilidad con relación al establecimiento de los años para el cálculo de las líneas bases, porque realmente teníamos una idea que si se producía un incremento de nuestras exportaciones, evidentemente la reducción no sería del 10%. Sería mayor. Aún así, a pesar de que teníamos nuestro proyecto de decisión, el tener también estar acompañados por otras 7 países o 7 partes en este mismo problema, nos llevó a tomar la flexibilidad de aceptar los cambios que se le hicieron al proyecto de decisión en aquel momento. En aquel momento no sabíamos, todavía no teníamos las proyecciones de cuáles serían los consumos del año 2023. Comenzó el 24, hicimos todos los cálculos, hicimos todos los procesos y realmente nos dimos cuenta, como veníamos previendo, que si se había un incremento de las importaciones a los años prepandémicos, por supuesto que tendríamos que reducir un % mayor y el esfuerzo del país sería mucho, yo diría, inmensamente grande. Y entonces realmente
as a small country.
Nos
So
dimos a la tarea, preparamos el gráfico que
we
presentamos acá.
produced the
El
graph
gráfico
that
habla
we showed you and the
por
draft
sí solo
decision. And I think the
de
graph
los problemas
speaks
a
for
los que nos
itself
enfrentamos.
about the kind of problems that we're facing.
En los argumentos que se dieron hace 2 días se hablaba de
Making our case
la
2 days
aplicación,
ago,
el control a través de la aplicación de
we
cuotas.
mentioned
Estamos convencidos que la
control
aplicación
through the quota
de
system,
cuotas
and we believe
realmente
that,
es uno de los
the
mecanismos
quota
para
system
ir
is,
controlando
a good
la
mechanism
importación
to
de
control
estos
imports of
gases.
these,
Pero
gases,
realmente
but
es un asunto
this
que a
really
nivel
is
de
a matter
país estamos tratando,
that,
debe ser tratado de una manera gradual.
has to be
Sabemos
addressed
que de
gradually
aplicar
on-
las
on a
cuotas
phased
como
basis.
deberíamos
If
para llevar
we had applied the
el
quotas as
proceso
we
de
normally
acuerdo
should have,
al
in accordance
itinerario
with
hasta 2030,
the plan through to 2030,
realmente
then
de aplicarse paraliza nuestro
that
país,
would paralyze our
paraliza
country.
nuestra economía,
It would simply
nos
paralyze our
obligaría
economy.
a inversiones
And
fuertes,
we would have to
cambio de
make,
tecnología,
major
búsqueda
investments to
de
change
gases
technologies
alternativos.
and
O sea,
find alternatives.
realmente no es una tarea fácil.
And that would be
No es
no
una tarea fácil.
mean feat.
Es
It
por
wouldn't
eso
be
que
easy.
nosotros
So that's
presentamos
why
este
we are
CRP
bringing forward this
buscando
CRP.
ventanas de
We
financiamiento,
would like
además de las que
funding
están
window which is
y
larger
de los 2
than,
años que
what was
tenemos
provided for.
para no presentarnos
And,
al comité de incumplimiento,
we don't want to
para
have to go
poder
to the
seguir apoyando
non-compliance committee. We
este
want to be
proceso.
able to continue
Realmente
supporting the process.
creo que puede haber una posibilidad
So I really think
de
there should
conversar
be
en
a
el
way
tema de los MDI, de los inhaladores, que es donde tenemos una mayor cantidad de consumo, de importación de este
manage our
de HFC,
consumption and,
pero
imports
también
production
tenemos el
of
sector de
HFCs.
refrigeración. O sea, son
But
dos
we
temas
still
diferentes.
have,
Y realmente estamos
to take care of
dispuestos a
refrigeration. So
diálogo,
these
a
are two
conversar,
separate issues.
siempre y
We are
cuando
open to dialogue,
vayamos a una posición
so long as we're
intermedia
able to find middle
entre lo
ground
que planteábamos nosotros
between
y
what
la
we
realidad, porque
proposed and,
nosotros estamos planteando una realidad
the
que
situation.
la estamos planteando en este momento
We
a
are
nombre de Cuba,
telling,
pero estoy
you what
casi
our
convencido que es la
situation is
realidad de muchas
in
otras
Cuba,
partes.
but I know that
O sea,
a
la
lot of other
capacidad
parties
de
are probably
cumplir
having the
con el
same
protocolo
problem.
de
They're
Montreal en
having
estos
trouble
momentos,
complying with
ante
the
todos
Montreal Protocol
los
at this
retos que
time
tenemos por
these same
delante,
reasons,
no
because of
solo
these
de
challenges
precios, de
before us.
flete, de
It's not just
seguros,
the price
de
of
acceso
cargo and
y todo,
insurance
inclusive lo que
and
hemos visto en los
access
diferentes talleres
and everything we
y
talked about in the various
y los
workshops
eventos paralelos a los que hemos
and, side
asistido,
events
muy interesante, y le
that were
agradecemos
very
a
interesting, and we're very
los
grateful
ponentes de todas esas
that all those
esas
events were hosted.
experiencias que no
And
solo
we're grateful to,
refuerzan lo que
hear from
planteamos
the
acá,
other
sino
parties about their experiences.
nos indican que el camino a
But
seguir
everything suggests
no es
that,
sencillo y lleva
it's not
fondos,
going to be an
necesita
easy path
fondos.
forward. We need funds.
Realmente nosotros deseamos que el CRP
So
se
we really
lleve
hope
a la
the
MOP
CRP will
y
be
bueno,
brought to the
estamos
MOP,
dispuestos
and
ya
we
en
stand
el
ready,
seno de la MOP a
here
dialogar
at the MOP
en un grupo de contacto, a discutir, a
discuss
ponernos de
this in
acuerdo,
a contact
a
group
buscar
or
soluciones de
some form and
conjunto.
try to find,
Yo creo que la búsqueda de
solutions
soluciones
that
de
everyone can
conjunto,
agree on.
yo creo que donde prevalezcan los intereses de las partes, no de una sola parte,
We
de
want
todas las
to
partes.
address the needs of all parties, not just one.
Y quizás la disposición a aceptar lo que
And
esta parte está trasladando
we hope that,
fundamentalmente es su preocupación con el cumplimiento con el protocolo de Montreal.
And
O
understand
sea,
that we really
el
want to
logro de la
comply with the
reducción del
Montreal
10%
Protocol,
del HFC
namely
a
10%
2029,
reduction
2030,
in HFC
yo creo
through
que es
2030.
la gran preocupación.
That is
No quiere decir esto
a major
que nosotros
concern.
al interior
That is
de
not
nuestro
to
país
say
no estemos
that,
tomando medidas.
we
Se
are
están
not
tomando
taking
medidas
actions in our country.
graduales.
We are, but
Comenzamos
gradual
un proceso
measures.
gradual
We're
ahora
initiating a
de
process,
conversación con los principales
to
importadores
convert the main
para
importers
comenzar precisamente a convencer de la necesidad de ir pensando
precisely so
en
that we can
realmente
find new solutions and new ways of thinking
en otras alternativas,
and
en importar
alternatives,
equipos que ya no traigan
and,
esos gases.
be able to import,
Pero esto es un proceso
equipment that
gradual
doesn't emit these
que no
gases,
puede
but it's
ser
a-
a través
it's slow going. We
de un
can't do
plumazo,
it,
como decimos en Cuba, con
at the
un
stroke of a
decreto,
pen,
con una
with a
cuota, porque
decree
realmente
or a new
atenta
quota,
contra
because
el
that
desarrollo
really would,
económico. En el caso de Cuba,
impede,
no comparamos
the
con
economic
ningún otro país.
development of,
En el
Cuba.
caso de Cuba,
And we're
pudiera
not trying to
significar
compare
la
with other
paralización
countries, but,
de cadenas de frío,
certainly
de
in
cadenas
Cuba it would
productivas
impact, the
y de otro
cold
tipo de
chain
procesos que
and
se están
other
desarrollando
productive sectors
en
of
una
the
economía
economy.
que salió salió tan debilitada
And our
de la
economy
pandemia,
came
como
out
se ha
so weak
demostrado
after
que
the
además
pandemic.
fue aceptado por la reunión de las partes del pasado año 2023. Entonces, nosotros realmente no estamos cerrando el diálogo, estamos dispuestos a seguir dialogando, pero en principio mantenemos la decisión de que el CRP vaya y sea analizado en la reunión en Tailandia a finales de año. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if there are other parties who would like to take the floor. Otherwise, I would like to confer for a moment.
Chair, so when this came up in plenary previously, this delegation made a pretty substantial intervention. We had understood that the next step was that the proponent was going to reach out to do margins discussions. Further, we had understood that you had just asked for was an update on the follow-up from your proposed path forward in plenary, and it just does not appear to us that that follow-up has actually occurred, and we're being asked now to sort of skip to just passing this CRP on to the MOP. So from our perspective, what we would have preferred is that the ruling that you made in the plenary was the follow-up item, but it appears based on what we just heard that none of that has actually taken place. So I don't know what your ruling is, but our preference would not be to move this on to the meeting of the parties because the follow-through has not taken place that we understood was your own ruling from the floor. Thank you.
I see Cuba, you asked for the floor, and then I will come back to what the proposal is. So Cuba.
Realmente se propuso tener reuniones al margen, pero no se definió entre quiénes. Por supuesto que una parte sí estaba definida, que era Cuba, pero ¿con quién? ¿Cómo la íbamos a tratar? Si además estuvimos acá en plenario, estuvimos acá en la reunión, no nos hemos movido de acá y realmente sí hemos visto movimientos de las partes con las que nos interesaba hablar, pero a reuniones de contacto, a seguir otros temas de la agenda. Hemos estado acá y estamos dispuestos a conversar, pero realmente el CRP el interés está propuesto por una de las partes de acuerdo a los procedimientos del protocolo y realmente no veo por qué haya que dejarlo acá y no llevarlo a la MOP. Nosotros somos de la decisión de que sí se debe llevar a la MOP y en la MOP crear un grupo de contacto y sentarnos y conversar en un grupo de contacto con todos los detalles, inclusive tendríamos más tiempo para prever cuáles serían las decisiones. Quizás a lo mejor en el seno de la MOP decidimos, bueno, que hay una decisión y que la decisión es dejar el tema y vernos en ESCOM y darle una materialización al tema en ESCOM. Perfecto, en el comité ejecutivo sería ideal, pero nosotros hemos estado acá, o sea, no, realmente no entendemos la intervención que nos precedió y realmente hemos estado acá. No se definió tampoco quién de la contraparte, porque realmente países que intervinieron para trasladar una opinión diferente a la posición del proponente fueron alrededor de 5 o 6 países, 5 o 6 partes. Y realmente yo creo que habría que haber definido quién sería quien centraría el tema por la contraparte, no por el proponente. El proponente hizo la propuesta y un grupo de las partes tenían una opinión divergente, diferente. Y bueno, realmente alguien debió ser el centro de llevar a cabo esas conversaciones oficiosas. Eso realmente quizás fue la laguna que quedó ahí intermedia, sin una definición, y quizás eso llevó a no realizar las conversaciones oficiosas, pero realmente eso no puede distraernos de que el proyecto de decisión del CRP8 vaya a la MOP. Es una solicitud de una de las partes porque considera realmente que es necesario. Es necesario esta ventana adicional, que es necesario apoyar a estos países afectados por la COVID. Quizás en las conversaciones que podamos tener en lo adelante, en la MOP, se puedan esclarecer muchas más cosas, se puedan inclusive decidir si logramos un acuerdo, retirar el CRP, pero en la MOP. Y es una petición de una de las partes, como está establecido en el protocolo de Montreal.
Muchas gracias. And let's say when we had the plenary, there were several delegations who took the floor. And they also referred to discussions that already have taken place last year, and where decisions have been taken to accommodate several of your concerns, but also from other countries. And the ruling was indeed that you would consult with other parties to see if there was a way forward. And that was the reason there hasn't been established a contact group, but because there was not enough appetite to talk about this subject in a separate contact group or whatever setting. And then it's also up to the country or the party that proposes something to go around and see if they can find support. As I just heard you and my proposal is this wouldn't go to the mob, because there's not enough support to discuss that at the mob. So this would be my ruling on this item. I'm sorry for you, but this is really how we try to move things forward as well. If it happens also with other items, if there's not enough support to go in a contact group or an informal group, then a party should go around and see if there's enough support in the room eventually to come with another proposal or adjusted proposal and to try to move forward on that. So I'm sorry, but I think we are not going to put that forward to the mob. Then I would like to go to agenda item 14, adoption of the report of the meeting, and that's Merosa.
Moving on to adoption of the meeting report. The report we are about to adopt is contained in documents 46/L1 and L1 Ed1. You'll find these documents in the meeting portal under in-session documents. Document L1, which covers discussions on the first day, which was Monday, is available in all languages, while document L1 Ed1, which covers discussions on the second and third days, is only available in English. As the limited time available to prepare and edit the document did not make translation into the other official languages of the United Nations possible. You will note that some sections are yet to be completed. This is in conformity with our practice to adopt reports of proceedings based on the understanding that the co-chairs, with the assistance of the Secretariat, will be authorized to complete the report after the session, including the sections that are already reflected in the draft report. I'm submitting it for adoption on the understanding that today's proceedings and approved changes will be incorporated in the final report. We will go through the report by agenda items and taking a group of paragraphs for adoption together on each item. I suggest that any participant with minor editorial comments can bring those straight to the Secretariat here at the podium immediately after we finish adopting the report, without necessarily seeking to make an intervention from the floor. However, if there are specific and extensive corrections in any paragraph of the report, then please first request the floor to read out those corrections and thereafter provide the text to the Secretariat for proper reflection in the report of the meeting. We will first take up document L1. Section 1, opening of the meeting. Are there any comments on paragraphs 1 to 7? If there are none, then they are approved. Section 2, organizational matters. Paragraphs 8 to 10 are to be completed. B, adoption of agenda. Any comments on paragraphs 11 and 12? If none, then they are approved. Organization of work, paragraph 13. Any comments? If none, then it is approved. Section 3, presentations by TEEP and the SAP. Under presentations, are there any comments on paragraphs 14 to 16? If none, then they are approved. Questions and answer session. We are looking at paragraphs 17 to 27. If none, then they are approved. And then move into discussions. First, very short-lived substances concerning paragraphs 28 to 36. Are there any comments? If none, then they are approved. Paragraph 37 under this is to be completed. Paragraphs 38 to 42. Is there any comments? If none, then they are approved. Paragraphs and emissions of carbon tetrachloride. Paragraphs 44 to 47. Any comments? If none, then they are approved. And then we move to section 4, life cycle refrigerant management. Are there any comments to paragraphs 48 to 65? If none, then they are approved. Section 5 on atmospheric monitoring, paragraphs 66 to 68. Are there any comments? If none, then approved. Paragraph 69 is to be completed. The rest of the sections of L1 are to be completed, and now we will turn to document L1, Ed 1. Under section 1, presentations by CHIEP and the SAP, feedstock uses of controlled substances, paragraphs 2 to 5. Any comments? Then approved. Section 2, enhancing the global and regional atmospheric monitoring of substances controlled by the MP, paragraphs 8 to 25. Any comments to these paragraphs? If none, then they are approved. Section 3. Are there any comments to paragraphs 27 to 49? EU, you have the floor.
We have a few limited comments on paragraph 47 in relation to PFAS and the ongoing developments in the EU. We have them in writing, so we will provide them to you in writing. But to give a few examples, there was reference to the precautionary principle, but we made the point that that was also part of the beginning of the Vienna Convention, and that's not represented. There is a list of possible exemptions already included in the draft proposal on the discussion in the EU, and the equipment where one refers to includes spray foams, which is not included in the list. At some point, it refers to HCFC, the report, while we think we refer to HFC when we intervened. It refers to phase out while we refer to phase down. There was one or two further small editorial comments, but we will provide them to you in writing. Thank you very much.
When you give the correct text, it will be incorporated. And now we turn to nominations for critical use exemptions for methyl bromide for 2025, paragraphs 50 to 54. Australia.
Paragraph 52, on the fifth line, after the sentence that ends considerable costs for the grower, I'd like to insert a new sentence. I have sent the text to the Secretariat, but it reads, she also indicated in the case of her country, the registration of a methyl iodide mixture by the Registration Authority in December 2023 had enabled its use for soil fumigation for strawberry runners in 2024, and more information on its success would be available later in the year. Then the paragraph would continue. Thank you very much. 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 Very much.
And now we turn to energy efficiency, paragraphs 56 to 66. Are there any comments? If none, then it's approved, and 67 is to be completed. Under panel membership changes, regarding paragraphs 68 to 69, are there any comments? If none, then it's approved. Under any other issues, paragraph 70. Any comments? Approved. Section 4, climate-friendly alternatives for metadose inhalers, paragraphs 71 to 81. Are there any comments? If none, then they are approved, and 82 is to be completed. Section 5, paragraphs 83 to 86. Are there any comments? If none, then approved. Section 6, paragraphs 88 to 106. If none, then it is approved. 107 is to be completed. Section 7, strengthening MP institutions. Are there any comments on paragraphs 108 to 114? If none, then it's approved. 115 is to be completed. Section 8, paragraphs 116 to 122. If no comments, then it's approved. Paragraph 123 is to be completed. Section 9, proposal by Cuba. Are there any comments on paragraphs 124 to 132? If none, then it's approved. Paragraph 133 is to be completed. And unwanted import of inefficient products and equipment, paragraphs 134 to 138. Are there any comments? If there are none, then it's approved. Paragraph 139 is to be completed. Section on adoption of the report of the meeting is also to be completed. Paragraph 141, closure of the meeting is also to be completed. We have come to the end of approving the meeting report as contained in documents 46/L1 and 46/L1 ed1. And with this, I will hand over to my co-chair for closure of the meeting. Thank you.
Here we are at the closing of the meeting. On behalf of my co-chair, Miruza Mohammed, I would like to make some remarks. It was a good, full, and fruitful meeting. A lot of progress has been achieved. I would like to thank all co-conveners for their active role in achieving this, and of course everybody here in this room. There's much understanding among parties on there's much more understanding among all parties on the different issues. And that puts us in a good position for the important decisions to be taken at the next COP-MOP. There are some decisions we only can make every 3 years, and we should not lose that momentum. It's also important to use the time between now and the COP-MOP to keep in touch and think and work on solutions that will be beneficial for everyone. And of course, relax a little bit for the summer holidays. I would like to say thank you, and as we are in Canada, also merci beaucoup to all the people who assisted us in the meeting, translator, technicians, and last but not least, the Ozone Secretariat. Au revoir, goodbye, until Bangkok. Thank you. I see I have 2 speakers on the list. Ukraine.
I want to say some words. First of all, we would like to thank the Canadian authorities to the opportunity to host this meeting and for the warm welcome. We thank the Secretariat for the excellent preparation. We would like to thank our colleagues whose active participation made the meeting rich and productive. Now we would like to draw your attention to the following. At a time when we are cooperation, for the sake of life on the planet, Russia had committed yet another brutal act of terror against Ukraine by launching a large-scale missile attack on peaceful cities, killing civilians, killing children. In the morning of the 8th of July, Russian forces fired 40 missiles of different types at Ukraine. The massive missile attack affected Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, the cities of Dnipro, Kryvyi Rih, Slavyansk, and Kramatorsk. More than 100 civil objects were damaged. The missiles were aimed at residential areas and medical centers. The strikes caused serious damage to Ukrainian largest children's hospital, Ahmadit. This is a hospital where oncological diseases are treated. Bone marrow transplantation and cardiological operation are performed on children. Patients and staff were affected. The blow was dealt to the striked children. This is a crime for which there is no justification. And no matter what the Russian leaders say today, there is indisputable evidence of the direct hit by the Russian missile on the Ahmadit Children's Hospital. In Kyiv alone, 33 people were killed as a result of the Russian attack that took place on this day. These are ordinary people, civilians. These are children. During its brutal war of aggression, Russia has shown complete disregard for human life and must be held accountable for the war crimes committed and for the blatant violations of international law. Thank you for your attention.
On my list. States, 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 states.
Thank you, Co-Chair. I'm making this statement on behalf of Australia, Canada, Israel, Japan, Norway, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. We condemn Russia's war against Ukraine. The toll this aggression is taking on Ukraine's people, environment, and infrastructure is catastrophic and must end. The international community must act resolutely and in solidarity with Ukraine. We will continue to stand with the people of Ukraine. Thank you, Co-Chair.
Прежде всего, хотели бы отметить, что прозвучавшие только что два выступления не имеют ничего общего с повесткой дня нашей сессии. И вы, как человек, ответственный за ведение сессии, на наш взгляд, должны были бы остановить эти выступления. Но так как они прозвучали, я вынужден взять слово в порядке реализации права на ответ. Должны констатировать, что мы, к сожалению, наблюдаем попытки ряда стран, в том числе Украины, политизировать международный природоохранный процесс. Призываем стороны воздержаться от предвзятых оценок ситуации на Украине.
Of the situation
Упомянутый
in
конфликт
Ukraine.
начался не в феврале
The conflict
22
did
года,
not begin in
а 10
February
лет назад.
2022, but began
начала его не
10
Россия.
years ago, and it was not Russia which started this conflict.
Причины
The
спецоперации на
reasons for the
Украине
special
хорошо
operation
известны
in
и
Ukraine are well
неоднократно
known. They were
озвучивались российским
repeatedly
представителями
voiced by the
на
Russian
профильных
representative
площадках,
at specialized
в том числе
platforms,
в рамках Совета
including at
Безопасности
the
ООН,
United Nations Security Council,
где на днях
where
рассматривался
just a few
вопрос
days ago the
о
question
якобы
was addressed about the
нанесенном России
alleged Russian
ударом
strike,
ракет, в том числе
missile
по больнице
strikes,
в Киеве.
including those allegedly
Факты
targeting hospitals in
подтверждают, что это
Ukraine.
была не
The
российская
facts
ракета,
bear out
это
the
была
fact this was not a
это была
Russian
ракета
missile. This
ПВО
was
Украины.
a Ukrainian anti-air defense system.
Варварская гражданская
The
война,
barbaric
развязанная Киевом
civil
против
war, which was
собственного
unleashed by
населения,
Kiev against its own
экономическая
population,
блокада
the
юго-востока
economic
страны
blockade of the
и
southeast
саботирование
of the
Украины
country, and
Минских
Ukraine's
договоренностей,
sabotage of
одобренных
the Minsk
Советом
agreements, which were
Безопасности,
approved by the UN
является
Security Council.
причиной
These
тех
are
событий,
the
которые
reasons
мы
for the
наблюдаем
events
сейчас.
which are currently unfolding.
Напоминаем участникам
We wish to remind
нынешней встречи,
participants of this
что
meeting of
специальная
the
военная
following. The
операция
special
вооруженных сил
military
Российской
operation of the Russian
Федерации на
armed
территории
forces
Украины
on the territory of Ukraine
осуществляется в
is
соответствии
being
с
carried
положениями
out
УСТА
in
ООН
accordance with the provisions
и
of the
при
United Nations
соблюдении
Charter
международного, в том
and
числе
in
гуманитарного права.
accordance with international, including humanitarian law.
Действия вооруженных сил
The
России не
actions of the Russian
направлены
armed
против
forces are not
гражданского населения.
targeting civilian populations.
Удары высокоточным
The
оружием
high-precision
наносятся по объектам
weapon strikes are
инфраструктуры,
targeting infrastructure
которые
objects,
используются в целях
which are being
военного
used
снабжения
for the
украинских
purposes
сил.
of providing military equipment and training the Ukrainian armed forces.
По данным официальных
According to the
докладов
data of
программ ООН
official
по
reports of the
окружающей
UN
среде,
Environment Program,
Донбасс
Donbass
находился в
was
состоянии
in
экологической
a state of
катастрофы,
environmental ecological
вызванной
catastrophe.
преднамеренным
This is a
уничтожением
consequence of the
промышленных
deliberate destruction of industrial
затоплением
facilities,
шахт и
the
развернутой
flooding of
киевскими властями
mines, and what the Kiev authorities
экономической
carried out. I
блокады,
refer to the economic
направленной
blockade,
против
which
собственного
they
населения.
are using to
За
target
долгие
their
годы
own population. For many long
агрессии
years,
против
the
собственного
aggression against
населения
their own population
пострадало более
is something which
12
caused,
тысяч человек, в том числе
caused more than
дети,
12,000 people to suffer as a result of this, including children, as a result of
учебные
strikes
заведения,
and bombardments targeting
рынки
educational institutions, schools, markets,
и кварталы,
as well
где
as
проживало мирное
residential
население этих
areas
регионов.
where the civilians of those regions
Что
reside.
касается
I
выступления
now turn to the
представителя
statement
Соединенных
delivered
Штатов,
by the
хотели бы
U.S.
отметить,
representative. In this regard, we wish to note
что
the
основная
following.
причина
The main
продолжения конфликта
reason for the
заключается в
persistent
поставках
conflict has to do with the fact that
киевскому режиму.
weapons are being provided to the
Если
Kiev
бы
regime.
США и их
If the
союзники
United
хотели
States and their
прекратить эту войну,
allies wish to stop
она
this
бы уже была
war,
прекращена.
then it would have been stopped already.
Спасибо, господин председатель.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. The EU is forced to take the floor. The EU and its member states reiterate their full solidarity with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people and strongly condemn Russia's unprovoked and unjustified war against Ukraine, which violates international law, including the Charter of the United Nations, and has had a devastating effect on human lives and the environment. Multilateral cooperation based on mutual respect is crucial to address huge environmental challenges. To address the huge environmental challenges we are addressing under this protocol that knows no borders. It is evidence that our collective efforts also under this protocol are indispensable and more urgent than ever. Thank you very much.
Russian Federation.
Что вы допустили выступление, не имеющее никакого отношения к теме нашей сессии, природоохранной теме. В ответ заявлению Евросоюзу хотел бы отметить, что именно Евросоюз, Германия, Франция выступили гарантами Минских соглашений и гарантами мирной передачи власти в феврале 2014 года на Украине. К сожалению, своих обещаний они не выполнили, что привело к кровавому перевороту в Киеве в феврале 2014 года и, как следствие, это установление неонацистского режима в этой стране. Последствия. Минские соглашения были торпедированы. И, как было заявлено представителем Франции и Германии позже, они с самого начала принимали Минские соглашения только для того, чтобы дать украинской клике
solely to provide the Ukrainian
хунте
clique, the
подготовиться к
junta,
ведению
an
боевых
opportunity
действий
to
против
prepare for the
своего же
conduct of
населения.
war, to wage
Что
war
и
against its own
происходило с
population.
2014
What
года
happened since
и
2014
происходит вплоть до настоящего времени.
and this has been continuing to occur up
Страны
until the
Европы
present day.
поставляют
European countries
летальное
have been
вооружение
providing lethal
Киеву,
weaponry
киевскому
to
режиму.
Kiev and the Kiev regime.
Эти
And
вооружения
this
активно используются
weaponry
киевским
is
режимом,
being actively
в
used
том
by the
числе и
Kiev
для
regime
уничтожения
inter
мирного
alia
населения,
for
обстрела мирных городов,
to murder
инфраструктуры,
civilians, to
природных
targeting infrastructure,
природных объектов.
civilian objects and environmental objects as well.
Это вооружение
And
опять идет
these
под знаком,
weapons, once again, these weapons
с которыми
have
уже приходили
insignia.
танки на территорию России и Украины
These were tanks
в
that already
прошлом.
entered
Под
Russia
танками,
and Ukraine
под
in the
знаками
past,
фашистской
and these were
Германии.
insignia from fascist
Хочу вас
Germany
заверить,
seen
что
on
Российская
those
Федерация не
tanks and
допустит
other equipment. The Russian Federation
распространения
will not
неонацистских
allow
идей
for the
на
spread of
территории
neo-Nazi
Европы.
ideology and ideas on the territory of Europe.
И еще раз хотели
And
бы
once
отметить,
again,
что
we
если
wish
европейские
to
страны
note that if
хотели
European
бы
countries
прекратить этот конфликт
wish to put an
и
end to
прекратить
this
поставки
conflict and put
вооружения
an end to weapons
киевскому
deliveries
режиму,
to the Kiev regime,
война бы уже была
the war
прекращена.
would
Спасибо,
again
господин
have long
председатель.
been over. Thank you.